Believe me, dear, your future lies with David, and not with a silly old buff like me. One day, I shall come back. Yes, one day. Until then, there must be no tears, no regrets, no anxieties. Just stay forward in all your beliefs, and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mind. Goodbye, Susan. Goodbye, my dear. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Dalek Invasion of Earth by Terry Nation, directed by Richard Martin. So this is the television version, which is part of our chronological ordering and has our crew. And there was also the remake that they made. For those of you who don't know, I mentioned it in the previous Dalek story. They turned the two Dalek stories, the last one and this one, into movies starring Peter Cushing as Doctor Who. I highly recommend watching the movie version. It's a bit silly and it has a lot of flaws, but I think it is well worth checking out. So there you go. I probably won't review these unless you demand it. So if you do, let me know and I'll talk about them maybe in the future. So this story is 6 parts. So I'm not going to go too detailed on the story like I usually do in these videos, because otherwise we'll be here for ages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to summarise a bit and then talk about my feelings on it. So the story has the Doctor and our crew land on the planet Earth in the future, where basically the world is divided and conquered by the Daleks, and they've returned. And for most of the story, it has our TARDIS crew go into different places throughout London, and you see the Daleks on the London streets, and then the story slowly moves up to a mining area, and then the Doctor and his crew have to stop the Daleks from putting a bomb onto the planet's core. I'll go into detail more about their plan later on, but so yeah, the Daleks' invasion of Earth. Now, if you remember last time, the Dalek first story was 7 parts long, and I said that it kind of it could have done with an episode gone, because one episode was really just boring and nothing happened. However, here, I should mention as well, Terry Nation, he's not a very original writer. A lot of plot points from Dalek, as in the Doctor discovers like a city, they get captured by the Daleks, they escape, they team up with rebels, the rebels then get sort of captured with the thing, and then there's like a rebellion at the end of it. So a lot of plot points get repeated here. However, here they are done a lot better, and I think the main reason for it is that the side characters, if you remember in Dalek I said that the Thals weren't interesting characters, and that kind of stopped the story a lot of the moments, but here the human characters are very interesting, and also as well, this story is incredibly bleak. A lot of red shirts. For those of you who don't know, red shirts is a sci-fi term from Star Trek, which describes characters that were one-off characters that were written to be killed off to make the villains look more threatening. There's a lot of red shirts in this story. People are dying left, right and centre. The Daleks murder basically anyone they can. One of the characters that Barbara and Susan befriend is this guy who he's in a scientist who's in his wheelchair, and he's trying to make a bomb that can pierce the Daleks' shell and destroy them. And you really feel really bad for this character, because you can see that he's got a lot to go through, and you can see that he's a good person, but he's a lot of tense and he's a lot of anger, mainly because of what's happening with the Daleks and this war-torn London situation. And then what happens at one point is that he tries to test out the new bomb, and he tells Barbara that he wants to test it out, and she's like, we should wait for a moment and maybe see the doctor who's a scientist about the formula. And then he's like, okay, and when she walks off then he picks the bomb, leaves his formula on the desk, and then escapes to confront the Dalek, and just before he can throw it, they kill him off. And God, yeah, it's very bleak. There's even a bit after it where Susan and this woman, Jenny, are trying to leave, and the doors open and you can see this guy's body is just in the foreground, like there, say, and they're in the background. So it's like really like in your face death, and the fact that his body just gets ignored as Barbara and Jenny are trying to get out of London, it just shows how bleak this story gets. Susan befriends a man named David Campbell. Now, here's a fun fact. In the novelisation by Terry Dix, he renamed him to David Cameron. How cool is that? Maybe he's poking pigs. But anyway, and they have a very blossoming relationship here, and it leads into a romance. Now, I like these two characters, and I like them together with the scenes that they're in. They do have a lot of chemistry, Carol Ann Ford and the guy who plays him. But as a romance, it falls flat. You can see that they're like great friends at most, but as like lovers, it seemed very like it was just a short attempt to try and get to fulfill one of the requirements of this story, which we will get into. And the Doctor and Ian get captured by Robomen. Now, what they are is that the Daleks have taken human prisoners and sort of like mind controlled them and put these devices over their heads, and they call them Robomen. The way they word it is like they've been robotized, which is like, so they're like, basically their mind is dead and they're turned into robot people. But this effect only works for a short amount of time, and when it wears off, they start becoming crazy and start banging their heads and just going nuts. In fact, the first shot in the story, which I'll tell you how bleak this story gets, is a robo man. He walks to a lake and he just drowns in the lake. And then the camera pans up and there's a sign that says, "Don't drop the bodies in the river." So it's like, bloody hell, that's pretty dark. It's very reminiscent. This story is very reminiscent of World War II. You can see a lot of influence in it, how everything is just battered and dirty, and there's like hardly anybody on the streets of London. A lot of iconography here, which is very important because the Daleks are an allegory of Nazism, and this story really shows that in its fullest. They even do the sort of Nazi salute with their plungers, which I personally found really funny that they would even attempt with the plungers putting up in the air like I don't know, I just found it really funny. They do it twice in the story, once in London, once in their ship. The Doctor and Ian here, I think, are out of the companions, out of the TARDIS crew, might be actually the weakest part in this story. Not bad. Ian does get a lot to do. Especially around the end when he's teaming up with some of the rebels and he's trying to plan a rebellion, and he also tries to sort out the bomb that the Daleks are putting down in. But the Doctor seems sort of like a background character in this one, which I think is fair enough. When you have 4 companions, sometimes you do have to like write one not as well focused. And the Doctor has plenty of stories where he is like the main focus, so I think it's fair enough. So, yeah. Now, Ian, he befriends a small group of slaves, and he tries to organise them to basically start a rebellion. And then at this point, he he encounters the slither. Oh boy, the slither! Now, if you haven't heard of the slither, prepare to have a whale of a time. The slither is a creature from Skaro, or we believe it's from Skaro, and it's just like this weird insect, like plant thing that stands around maybe the size of like an average human, and it's just the effect is just absolutely embarrassing. It moves really slowly, and the arms are just way too far apart and useless. It's like got like little pincers for hands. There's a brilliant video about the making of the slither from Dalek 63 to 88, which is a brilliant YouTube channel, and you should highly check this guy out. He does a lot of like in-depth behind the scenes stuff on Dalek stories, and the amount of research he does is just unbelievable, and it's to the point of the comical how in-depth he goes. Like he knows just by looking at them which Dalek is from a different Dalek, which is just incredible. So highly recommend that guy out. I'll put a link in the description. But there's also the second thing about the slither, and that's sort of like the way he's explained. Now, Ian learns from this guy that the slither is the Dalek Supreme's pet. The Daleks have a pet. I don't know, I just found it really funny. Like, what do they do? Do they go and feed it? Do they go and play with it? Do they need to take it out for a walk? I mean, the slither. Why are we not talking about the slither? Hashtag bring back the slither. I mean, and at one point, Ian and this guy, they get into like a little tube thing, and the slither's chasing them, and I love this bit because Ian's like, can it jump? And then the guy's like, it's trying, and even though it's the gap between the cliff and this tube thing is only like that amount, maybe even like smaller than that, it fails to do the jump, and Ian just really knocks it down to the bottom of the cliff, killing it. So I just imagine, can you imagine like what happens if the Daleks found out about this? What? You killed the slither? Why? You don't see us going to your house and killing your pets? You're disgusting. Maybe you deserve to die. Oh, poor Slither. We will revenge Slither. Revenge Slither. Revenge Slither. Sorry, I know it's not a really big point. It fills up one episode. The Slither is only in one episode, but man, just something about it. Just the way it looks and the way they described it. It's just so comical, unintentionally. But it's not stupid enough that it distracts the Holocausting feel of the story. But it's not threatening at all. At all. So, poor Slither. But let's get back to the story. Now, Barbara has a really great scene at one point where she gets kidnapped by the Daleks, and she comes up with this plan, and she tells the Daleks that the humans have got a plan, and I need to tell your higher ups about it so they can battle them. Now, as I've said in previous stories, Barbara seems like the most vulnerable of the TARDIS crew. She's always putting herself down. She's always pretty emotionally weakened by most of the things, and she's always surrounded by death and destruction, and it really affects her. So seeing this scene where she outwits the Daleks in a brilliant scene, she basically makes stuff up, and you can see the teacher side of Jacqueline Hill's performance come out in its full force. And I love the references to different histories. Like she says, there's going to be attacked by the Red Indians and the Boulders of Hamilton, and there's loads of these history references, and it just really suits Barbara. And to see her standing up to the Daleks and being so confident about it just really put a smile to my face. And that scene, and the fact that it works as well, ish. I mean, she tries to contact the Robomen to try to attack the Daleks, but the Daleks stop her before she could. So it sort of worked, but didn't. But I don't know. That's just a really cool scene. Maybe the story is just great just for that scene alone. It's also here when she bumps into the Doctor again. Do we have the iconic scene of the Dalek looking at the Doctor, and you see it from the Dalek's point of view. William Hartnell, he kind of everybody is like behind the door hiding, and the Doctor's just staring at this Dalek down with his arms like that. And it's just, that bit is just iconic. Richard Martin does a fantastic directing job here. There are some very iconic shots in this story. Here, I think this is probably Richard Martin's best story he's directed. I'm rewatching his story, so that could change. But at the moment, this story just looks absolutely gorgeous. It feels very post-war Noah. That's like the way a Noah thriller kind of, that kind of feeling, atmosphere it's got. And it just works when you get the human resistance. If this was set like on an alien planet, it might have not worked, but the fact it's set in future Earth, it's very bleak, very dark. The story seems a lot more adult than any story that we've had so far in this marathon. So there you go. If you like a much more dark story, maybe this might be actually a good starting on point for you. So now we get to the Dalek plan. Now, here's a spoiler for you if you plan to watch this. I'm going to put the spoiler up, so if you're planning to watch this, don't listen to this bit, okay? So, the Daleks' plan is that they're going to put a bomb to the centre of the Earth to destroy the Earth's gravitational something, so that they can control the planet and take it around the universe like a giant spaceship. So basically the Death Star, like a decade early. Bloody hell. That is just such a weird, strange plan for these space Nazis that I just love it. You don't find out about this until right at the end of episode 5, but the way like the Dalek, the Emperor Dalek person explains it, it's just beautiful. Something about it is so stupid and silly, but they take it so straight-faced, and it does kind of fit with the bleak situation of this story, where it's like basically everything's about death and destruction. So it's like, why not just blow up the inside of the Earth and take it around on a roller coaster ride? Hooray! However, Ian has put 2 blocks of wood to default the bomb, and it doesn't get into the core. And once this happens, the Doctor finds the communicator, because he rescued Barbara, and he tells the Robomen to rebel, and it's a very great scene of the rebellion, and you really do feel like you've been through a lot by the end of this story. However, though it's the end of the story, there's still one more bit we need to talk about. That ending. We're going to have to talk about Susan's departure. So like I said, Susan was starting this relationship with this guy, and there's a few scenes where they explain that she wants to stay in one place in one time. However, she won't leave the Doctor, and so that the Doctor kind of knows that she won't. There's a great bit where he sees her shoes, and she says something about that her cupboard is all messy. And I love it when the William Hartnell calls Carol Ann Ford a monkey. I don't know, it's a small scene, but I love it. But you can see in their performances that this is goodbye. And wow, it's just impactful. And then she goes to say goodbye to David, and you can see the Doctor in the background looking at her at the TARDIS, and you could see that she's ready to go. She can't because the Doctor is such an important person to her, and she feels like she has to rather than she kind of needs to. So the Doctor kind of puts things into his own hands, and he presses the button, and the doors close, and we get that infamous speech, which, if you've never heard the speech, you can't call yourself a Doctor Who fan. It's one of the most iconic, just the single greatest moment in television history. The way William Hartnell performs it, the way the camera slowly goes up to his face, and you get more of the detail of how sad but how happy that she's moving on, and Carol Ann's performance, and the way that it's shot mostly through the TV, like the camera's pointing at the TV, and the TV then is like showing her, which is just a resemblance of distance, just fantastic. And then the TARDIS dematerializes, and you get a very quiet moment of Susan walking where the TARDIS is, and just a moment of silence when David gives her the hand, and he says that he knew you wouldn't have left with a choice. So, and then she, without looking, grabs his hand, and they walk off, and it's just beautiful. And we have to say goodbye to Carol Ann Ford's as a recurring character. Now she comes back in the Five Doctors, so don't you worry. We haven't seen the last of Susan, but this is the last time she's a regular companion. And I just got to say, Carol Ann Ford in these stories have just been absolutely fantastic. And I can't believe, I think she went a bit too soon, in my opinion. There was a lot of character that she still could have done. However, she left because she felt like the character she was given at the start of the series wasn't the same one before, and I do kind of see where she's coming from. In an unearthly child up to the edge of destruction, even though she is this innocent teenager, there was also maybe a sinister side, and you can see that there's like an alien nature to her. Like she's not human, she's an alien. Like she might laugh at inappropriate moments, she might take things very seriously, and that started to disappear when the show kept going, and she became sort of like I don't want to say like a shouty, screamy companion, because that makes it sound like the second half of her run was terrible and that she was badly written, which isn't true. It's just that it felt more like a traditional what we think of a companion. Like she kind of screams a lot, she struggles, she's always asking questions to like all the time, that kind of stuff. So I do kind of see why she left, but I do wish that rather than that we got back the mystery Susan that we've seen in the earliest stories. But anyway, that's the Dalek invasion of Earth. Goodbye, Susan, and we will join me next time where we need to be rescued, and we say hello to Vicky. So I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. I've got to say goodbye to Susan. One day we will come back. See you next time.